we as human beings have to excel and improve all of our lives. And excellence is not something that comes by itself, but it is something that is to be achieved. It is something to be obtained and something to work for. And the hard work that you put towards achieving excellence in life is not something that is forsaken. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam says, Man jadda wajada, whoever strives, he obtains. So it is extremely important that we work towards excellence. But obviously the definition of excellence may be different for everyone. And sometimes what we are taught that this is excellence will reflect in our actions, in our ideology, in our life. So it is extremely important that we realize that excellence is achieved through taqwa. And it is not through the worldly things. Wealth may be good, but it is not the source to taqwa. Fame may be good, but it is not source to taqwa. These are not means for becoming muttaqi. A muttaqi is a person, if he has wealth, then he uses it in the right way. He pays his dues for the poor people. He fulfills his responsibilities towards his parents and family members and other members of the society. If he has fame, then he uses it to influence the righteous. So we live all of this life to attain the level of taqwa. And this taqwa is not something, I was giving an example last night somewhere, that you cannot just take a medicine and then expect that it will start affecting you. For example, for our health, if I'm unwell, then I'll take a medicine or, like an injection that would improve my health. Taqwa is not like that you eat a tablet or take an injection and then you start seeing the effects. It is something that is internal. The beautiful example by Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam is that no one can make you or change you to becoming a muttaqi until and unless you want it from yourself. Anbiya alayhimus salam come and preach, Mursaleen come and preach, A'imma alayhimus salam, ulama, anyone. Until and unless you decide that I want to change or I want to improve and I want to become better. So it is extremely important that we realize that it is my duty to improve. It is my duty to become a better person. So it is an internal matter, not an external matter. So taqwa is something which is internal. But you could see a person's taqwa in his actions, in his in his doings, in their day-to-day routine. You can see taqwa. A person would abide by the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Today we're also, yesterday or tomorrow, 8th or the 10th of Rabiul Thani is the Wiladat of Imam Hassan Askari alayhi salatu wasalam. The Imam who did not even celebrate his 29th birthday and was poisoned. So the last few Imams, they were poisoned very quickly one after the other because Bani Abbas knew that the 12th one is to come to overthrow the tyrants. So the 9th Imam al-Islam was only 25 when he was poisoned, the 10th Imam was 41, and the 11th Imam was only 28. So you can imagine that many times the corrupt rulers of society, the corrupt leaders of society do not wish for justice to prevail and to take over. And that is the case not only just in history with Fir'aun and Namrud and Shaddad and the rest of them. It is the case even in Islamic history with Bani Umayyah, Bani Abbas, and even today. Many times you would see that there are people who rule and they do not wish forever the justice to prevail, justice to take course, to establish. Remember one thing, that we look at people and then we decide that this is a good leader or a bad leader, but they themselves know if they are good. Sometimes, they look good, or they dress with all the, the goodness, but their heart is corrupt. So it is extremely important that we look at the current political situation with a very critical eye. The consequences can be seen. We are from one stage to another for the past many months, and probably past 2 years, that we've established this namaz Juma here since December 2020.
18 December.
Yes. So if we all remember, Roxab and yourself, and I led the first Juma, we've been trying to say that look at the entire situation. Things from bad to worse have taken course, unfortunately. Economically, internationally, politically. Now food crisis. Haiti has already started seeing it, and many other countries are seeing it, but we're not seeing them in the news. Obviously, certain countries are very, their policymakers or their politicians are idiots. They let you know that we control everything. In many countries, they're very sophisticated, so they will not let you know that they control. But obviously, everything is controlled. We live in a controlled world. And what we are getting into will be an even more controlled world after the entire coronavirus and, the rest of it. So we've been talking about this transition that we have been seeing. We're going through a transition where the power, 600 years of European rule is coming to an end. Over 600 years. And there have been many, many European philosophers, thinkers, who have over the centuries said that don't think that this power is forever in the hands of Europeans. It will shift to Asia sometime. And this is the time when we are seeing and witnessing this shift. انتقال القدرة من الغرب إلى الشرق, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, probably 10 years ago, in Beirut I had given this interview. That we'll see the shift of power from west to east. And we're witnessing it now. When I say from west to east, when I always say Europeans, I always count the Americans to be Europeans because the Native Americans were all killed or they don't have any power. The current rulers of America are Europeans. Yes, British, Irish, French, German, Italian, Spanish, they're all Europeans. They're all white-skinned. They're not Native Americans. So America is an extension of Europe or West. Likewise in Australia and New Zealand as well, the natives, the Aborigines and the Maoris in New Zealand, they don't rule. They are not even second or third class citizens, They exist in a minor number. They've been killed over the centuries, and the British obviously rule. We are now seeing this shift, and we are going to see border changes. We're going to see economical changes in the world, currencies, everything is going to shift. And the newcomers have already started saying this very openly, which I'm pleased about, that it will not be a unipolar world. It will not be a bipolar world. It will not be just Americans that controls the whole world, or the Russians and Americans in the 60s and 70s and 80s. It will be multipolar. It will be regional powers that will control. Unfortunately, we will not get rid of the corruption in politicians, but it will not be controlled by, there'll be, at the moment, people, I always say that they never claim, current politicians, they don't say that we are your gods, like Pharaoh and Namrud and Shaddad did. But they do act exactly the same way as Pharaoh and Namrud. So they don't say it, Ana Rabbukum al-Ala, I am your God. But they act like gods. And each individual in each powerful, For example, when you see clashes, and there are many people who made many films on, the clash of, for example, CIA and FBI, or, different international establishments. Because each person thinks, I am Fir'aun. I can decide whatever I like. I have the fate of the world in my hand. Because they don't believe in the hereafter, or they forget there is accountability one day. Similar things you're seeing in Pakistan, where the establishment for 75 years, or, well, probably less than 75 years, because it didn't start with the establishment of Pakistan. As soon as Pakistan was freed, the establishment did not come into being straight away. It took a year or two before they came into power. And then they started controlling. But the same powers even had control over the Pakistani politicians from day one. And it has come to a point where people have now started openly saying that we do not wish to be controlled anymore. This is a sign of Akhir Zaman, where you see that in Sri Lanka happening. You see that in many, many countries in Africa, in Asia, and other parts of the world, where people say that we do not wish to be controlled by. They use the term 2%. That 2% of the people control all the resources, all the wealth, all the politics, and everything. But even 2% is a wrong figure, because it is much narrow than that. It may be just a few people controlling, but then they have the 2% who obey and submit and apply their politics or their policies into the society. And this is one of the signs of Akhir Zaman, that it will not be controlled by one or two countries or one or two individuals. It will be, there will be so much chaos, division, before Sahib Zaman comes. I'm not specifying the time, and I don't know. Obviously, no one knows except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No alim, no scholar can ever claim that they know the time of the coming of the 12th Imam alayhi salatu wasalam. But we do see many signs, and it has been centuries. So, if you look at the history of humanity, yes, we've had a ghaibat for shorter period, but this is one of the longest ghaibats that we've had. And it will also decide the fate of the Shia community, that many will be divided and many will go offline and stop believing. And we're seeing this happening in many, many parts of the world. Iran and Iraq being the prime example. Iraq, even after Saddam, the politicians haven't learned the lesson, the people haven't learned the lesson, administration. And I do know I'm very vocal when I unfortunately give sermons, Friday sermons, where I openly speak on all issues. But I don't mind them going, anyway. You see that the likes of Saddam, Ba'ath Party ruled for a few decades, over 2 decades, almost 3 decades, yes? And you don't see the politicians having learnt anything in Iraq. That way, Iraqi politicians or Iraqi people, well, politicians more so, haven't been able to come together to be able to help. I came back last weekend, and in recent years, they have started improving things in Iraq. So improvement is coming, but unfortunately, it may be too late, because the people have now lost trust in the Iraqi politicians. What is happening in Iran? You have a lot of external influence, because yes, in the Nasa, Abid Dunya Na'mir Ramin al-Islam has a very beautiful saying that people are servants of dunya. Yes? We are all slaves of our worldly beliefs and possessions that we have. And young people, Iran is a young country, just like Pakistan. Pakistan is probably not as young as Iran, because Iran lost a lot of people in the war, in Iran-Iraq war, in 8.5 years. So it is a lot of, it's a very young country. So the people haven't seen, the pre-Jamhuri Islami or pre-Islamic Republic era. Yes, by seeing films and a lot of social media videos and everything, people want freedom. I don't want to do hijab, I don't want this, I don't want that. And there's a whole debate at the moment that how do you control or how do you justify or how do you answer these young people who do not wish to do hijab or who do, do you control or do you let go? So we do have a lot of influence from outside, and unfortunately in Iraq there is a lot of atheism at the moment. People are becoming atheist because they have lost faith in political leadership. It is not the religious leadership that has a role in Iraq, unlike Iran. But the Iraqi political parties were, claiming to be all religious, and they showed so much corruption that the people are now becoming atheists, unfortunately. You'll see that prevailing in many other countries. Like the subcontinent of India and Pakistan, the largest Muslim population in the world. Yes? We have, Pakistan claims that it is only 230 million people. Some politicians are now claiming that it is over 300 million people. So it is the fourth largest country. The figures are there controlled. They don't give full figures. For example, Karachi, they will say it's 16 million, while it is 37 million. Probably people claim that it is more. One of the biggest slums you will see in Bombay and Karachi. So Karachi is a huge city, amongst mega cities, Tokyo. And some people say probably Karachi because Karachi, and all figures they know, but they will say no, it is only 16 million because of certain reasons. In Lahore, for example, they'll say 10 million, while it is over 16 million. Nevertheless, it is the largest Muslim population, subcontinent. Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, if you just combine the subcontinent, India in itself, the Hindus claim that the Muslims are only 15%, which makes them 200 million. While the Muslims are claiming that we are more than 20%. That makes them over 300 million. So can you imagine about 700 to 800 million Muslims living in the subcontinent? And they were very anti-religion during the time of the British because they had lost faith in the Muslim leadership or the religious leadership. The religious leadership had not revolted against the British. In fact, from the members, they were praying for the long life or the monarch so that they remain here and control and run the things better because they had started the railway and other things. Can you imagine? Even, I was reading, someone showed me a majlis, that this is a majlis, Shia majlis, and at the end of the majlis, they said, Taj-e Bartania ki lambi zindagi ho. They were praying for the long life of the monarch. And that had made the young people so rebellious against the religious, and the likes of Allama Iqbal, Dr. Muhammad Iqbal, who had said, Mullah ki aza aur, Mujahid ki aza aur, so they all were rebellious against religious leadership. Why? Because they had corrupted the society and they had said that no, this is correct to have rulers from outside, because they are still organizing us. Obviously, the British had made India better for their own reasons, because they were there to remain. When the Chinese are coming into Pakistan, they are going to make Pakistan better, not for Pakistanis, for themselves, because they want better motorways so they can take things from here to China. They want better railway systems, everything they want better, because for whom? For themselves. This week was also, like the end of apartheid states and the colonial powers. Unfortunately, in my past few years that I've been going to Pakistan, I even heard in some parts of Pakistan people saying, the British rule was better. We wish it came back. Can you imagine? Because they only see some parts of the good and not the other evil parts or the oppression. I hope I'm not confusing people. But it is extremely important that we realize that they don't come in for your good. Some of the richest countries in terms of resources are African countries. But in fact, they are the poorest of the countries in the world. Why? Because the people controlling from behind the scenes wish for them to remain uneducated and poor so they can utilize the resources and take all the gold and everything. And many a times they place or put in rulers, for example, in Congo or in many countries, that will toe the line of these colonial powers. For example, all the gold taken out from Congo, the biggest gold reserves, and they are paid into peanuts, but it all goes to the West. All the diamonds taken out from Africa, the price is very low when it leaves the country, but by the time it reaches America or Switzerland or Britain and France and other, Belgium or other countries that, carve them, they become priceless. And there are puppets in every country that are willing to just fill their own pockets and allow the colonial powers to come in and rule. For what reason? Not for the good of their own people, for their personal good. And you would never have the situation that we have until unless we had people who were corrupt inside. The last thing I want to say before I conclude, you had to listen to so much. I've come back after a few weeks, so.
You still have time.
Yeah, thank you. Like an axe. All the trees started crying, oh, an axe has come to the jungle. So the trees will be cut again. One of the trees spoke out, he said, stop blaming the axe. It has a wooden hold. If one of us did not help the axe get the wooden hold, it would never cut us. The axe in itself cannot cut us. I hope I conveyed that example. If it wasn't for people corrupt inside, the colonial powers would never be able to come in and rule. Yes, I live in Britain. Yes, I stay here, but it doesn't mean that I'm a terrorist or I only criticize, the evil parts or the wrong parts, and we all have the right to say that. So the Europeans went around colonizing other countries, and they oppressed those countries. It wasn't, all good. Yes, they may have developed. Unlike America that destroyed everything, the Europeans did develop many countries. But they developed them for themselves, not for us. It wasn't that they were going to leave one day and we're developing everything for you. Ji'na lil baqa, we came to remain. Yes, they came to remain in those countries, not to leave. Many have left and many have not left. They have only left physically. But their ideology, their entire control still remains. Like in South Africa. I went there and I saw firsthand that on the front line, it's all, the black Africans that control the banks and everything. But on the back end, it's all the British, the white-skinned people who control and run everything. Because people in the country wish to only see black people on the front line. They don't care if at the back end, there are white people running everything and still controlling the entire ideology, politics, economy, media, everything. Our ideology needs to improve, and we need to learn that we are not sincere, we are not educated enough, we are not learned enough, we are not technical enough to run, and we need to see the policies of others. Many times they do not develop you enough. Yesterday, the British news, I do not wish to name, you can go and check yourself. They were all saying that this is the worst, because the interest rate went up, so they were discussing the economy, that this is the worst inflation or recession we're going to ever see in the history of Britain, ever since records have begun. Now, the current Prime Minister, when he was the Chancellor of the Exchequer, he said that Britain is in the worst economic situation for 250 years. This is the worst economical crisis. Do we feel it? We've started feeling it, but we don't truly feel it like we felt in the Great Depression in the 1920s and 30s, yes? You don't feel the same situation after the Second World War. If you read about the situation, how bad it was, the currency had devalued. People are talking about Iran and Lebanon, yes? The currency has devalued so badly. Just before the Second World War, I may have said this before, but A man went to buy a loaf of bread in Germany. So he said to the shopkeeper, he said, I want to buy a loaf of bread. He said, yes, get into the queue. 100 and something people sitting there, get in the queue. He said, look, I'm elderly and I have cash. He said, all of these people are buying the bread cash. So he had a trolley full of notes. He said, no, look, I've got the cash here. He said, all of them have cash. Get in the line. So he went, because he was elderly, he went and sat down and left the trolley in the queue. A thief came, a robber came, threw all the currency down, the trolley full of notes, and took the trolley because the trolley was worth more than the notes in it. This is European history. Can you imagine? You think only Lebanon is happening. Oh, it's happening in Lebanon, it's happening in Iran, Afghanistan. You would not be laughing when it happens here again. I promise you. Did it happen in the past? Yes, it happened in Europe. That's when they started colonizing and attacking and bringing in gold and everything from other countries. Looted the whole world. Do you think it will happen again? We are sleepwalking into a world war. One of the biggest criminals still living on earth, who is made into a hero and always given awards. I was watching his interview when John Major was interviewing him recently when he came to Britain. Should I name him or should I not? He was, they say that he is the mastermind behind the New World Order, as they called it, which is coming to an end in the 60s. Henry Kissinger, I can name him. One of the biggest living criminals, yes, on earth. They call him Amr ibn As, Muawiyah and Amr ibn As of this age. They interviewed him and they said, one of the guys, he obviously charges a lot of money for a dinner. If you invite him for a dinner, he said, okay, if you pay me $10,000, I'll come for a dinner. He doesn't pay, you pay him for a dinner, and he will tell you which hotels he will eat at. So a journalist said, I paid him, the amount he had said, and he said, how much time do you have? I said, you have 1 or 2 hours. And so New York, prime hotel. He said, I went into the restaurant, booked. He said, your time begins now. I'll start eating, you start interviewing. So he talks a bit slow, he's in his late 90s. He said, do you think there'll be another war? He said, if you can't hear the war drums, you must be deaf. And that was the headlines that I just wanted to mention. All top American economists are now saying that the mess America is in, economical mess, there is only one solution: war. You cannot come out of it. Why? I want the young people to understand. I know the older generation is more learned and better equipped than myself. Why do people go to war when economical crises come in? Because if they don't, and there is an economical crisis and people are becoming bankrupt, they will come out on the streets and say, you've done it. So they have to go to war and say, well, there is a war going on, so they can blame Russia, Ukraine, and other places, or everything has gone to mess because of a war. So there is no solution to the economical crisis that we're in Europe and in America, except for war. So they will go to a war, and 2 days ago I was reading an article where they're saying that Americans should prepare for a nuclear war both in Asia and in Europe, not just one war. So everyone is now testing their nuclear weapons and preparing. So we should now, the last thing I want to say, I had said 5 minutes ago, this is the last thing. I was in Iraq and we met with the office of Adil Sistani. Adil Sistani is not well, so he had very few appointments. He's in his 90s, he's 93, mashallah, hafidhahullah, may Allah protect him. So he said one thing, he said, some of the Hoja brothers from Canada had made appointment a few months ago, so they went in and they came out, and the translator, the representative, said to us directly, he said, this brother asked a question, what dua should we read? What should we be preparing for? And he said, Atullah Sistani said, if this is Akhir Zaman, and there will be wars and pandemics, and if you are a true Shia, then inshallah, according to the ahadith of 6 Imam al-Islam, hold on to your faith and you will remain alive through this crisis. Just for being Shia, not for being good, because many of us are not. We are ourselves many times corrupt or sinful, but just for being on the side of 12th Imam. Inshallah, there will be many, many crises, but obviously be prepared, psychologically, Iman, and also follow the guidelines given by the main maraji which I have said previously. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma lakal hamdu badi as-samawati wal ard. Dhal jalali wal ikrami Rabbal arbab wa ilaha kulli maluh wa khaliqaha kulli makhluqin wa waritha kulli shay. Laysa kamithlihi shay wa huwa bi kulli shay'in muhit. Anta Allahu la ilaha illa anta al-ahad al-mutawahhid al-fard al-mutafarrid. Wa anta Allahu la ilaha illa anta al-karim al-mutakarrim al-azim. والصلاة والسلام على محمد النبي الرحمة سيد المرسلين وعلي بن أبي طالب سيد الوسيين وفاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين والحسن المجتبى حجة الله على الخلق أجمعين والحسين الشهيد المظلوم وارث أمير المؤمنين وعلي بن الحسين زين العابدين ومحمد بن علي باقر علم الأولين والآخرين وجعفر بن محمد الصادق الصديق والمقتدى بآبائه الصالحين وموسى بن جعفر الكاظم من أولاد النبيين وعلي بن موسى الرضا من عترة بررة المتقين ومحمد بن علي الجواد ولي المؤمنين وعلي بن محمد السراج المنير إمام الخاشعين والحسن بن علي سيد الأوصياء المنتجبين والخلف القائم المهدي المنتظر الحجة بعد آبائه على خلقك المؤدي عن نبيك ووارث علم الماضيين من الوسيين الذي ببقائه بقيت الدنيا وبيمنه رزق الورى وبوجوده ثبتت الأرض والسماء وبه يملأ الله الأرض قسطا وعدله كما ملئ الظلم وجوره وعجل لنا اللهم ظهوره إنهم يرونه بعيدا ونراه قريبا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم افتح لنا أبواب توبتك ورحمتك ورزقك الواسع إنا إليك من الراغبين وأتمم لنا إنعامك إنك خير المنعمين. اللهم اجعل بقية أعمارنا في أداء فرض الجمعات والحج والعمرة ابتغاء وجهك يا رب العالمين. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين والسلام عليه وعليهم. परवरदिगार हम सब की आक़िबत बखैर फरमा, दुनिया के हालात ख़राब हैं, मोमिनीन की हिफाजत फरमा। परवरदिगारा बे औलादों को औलाद इनायत फरमा, औलाद वालों की औलाद को नेको सालिह बना, परेशान हालों की परेशानियाँ दूर फरमा। हम सबको साहिब ज़मान का ज़हूर देखना नसीब फरमा, दुश्मनान अहले बैत को निस्त नाबूद फरमा, दाइश व तालिबान को आले सऊद को गारत फरमा। परवरदिगारा हमारे मकामात मुक़द्दसा की हिफाजत फरमा, परवरदिगारा ऐसे इमाम बारगाह को तरक्की इनायत फरमा, हम सब की आक़िबत बखैर फरमा। परवरदिगारा सब दुनिया में हालात ख़राब हैं, खुसूसन इस वक्त पाकिस्तान में बहुत ज़्यादा हालात ख़राब हैं, हिंदुस्तान में मुसलमान के हालात ख़राब हैं, कश्मीर में, अफ़गानिस्तान में, ईरान, इराक़, शाम, बहरीन, यमन, फ़लस्तीन, नाइजीरिया, बर्मा, सब की हिफाजत फरमा। रब्बना तक़ब्बल मिन्ना इन्नका अंतस समीउल अलीम बिहक़्क़ि मुहम्मद व आलिहि तय्यबीन अत्ताहिरीन अल-मअसूमीन। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अल्लाहु अकबर, अल्लाहु अकबर। अशहदु अन ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह, अशहदु अन ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह, अशहदु अन्न मुहम्मद रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम, अशहदु अन्न मुहम्मद रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम, अशहदु अन्न अलिय्यन वलियुल्लाह, أشهد أن عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، حي على الفلاح، حي على خير العمل، حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة وقد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم. هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم. ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. مثل الذين حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا بئس مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآيات الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. قل يا أيها الذين هادوا إن زعمتم أنكم أولياء لله من دون الناس فتمنوا الموت إن كنتم صادقين ولا يتمنونه أبدا بما قدمت أيديهم والله عليم بالظالمين. قل إن الموت الذي تفرون منه فإنه ملاقيكم ثم تردون إلى عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. فإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا من فضل الله واذكروا الله كثيرا لعلكم تفلحون. وإذا رأوا تجارة أو لهوا انفضوا إليها وتركوك قائما قل ما عند الله خير من اللهو ومن التجارة والله خير الرازقين. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. لا إله إلا الله الحليم الكريم، لا إله إلا الله العلي العظيم. سبحان الله رب السماوات السبع ورب الأرضين السبع وما فيهن وما بينهن ورب العرش العظيم والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته قوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. كذلك الله ربنا. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب بجاه محمد وآله الأطهار. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. يا خير المسؤولين ويا خير المعطين.
وارزقنا وارزق عيالنا من فضلك فإنك ذو الفضل العظيم.
الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله اللهم صل على
الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله أول قبل الإنشاء والإحياء، والآخر بعد فناء الأشياء، العليم الذي لا ينسى من ذكره ولا ينقص من شكره ولا يخيب من دعاه ولا يقطع رجاء من رجاه. اللهم إني أشهدك وكفى بك شهيدا وأشهد جميع ملائكتك وسكان سماواتك وحملة عرشك ومن بعثت من أنبيائك ورسلك وأنشأت من أصناف خلقك أني أشهد أنك أنت الله لا إله إلا أنت وحدك لا شريك لك ولا عديل ولا خلف لقولك ولا تبديل، وأن محمدًا صلى الله عليه وآله عبدك ورسولك أدى ما حملته إلى العباد وجاهد في الله عز وجل حق الجهاد، وأنه بشر بما هو حق من الثواب وأنذر بما هو صدق من العقاب. اللهم ثبتني على دينك ما أحييتني ولا تزغ قلبي بعد إذ هديتني وهب لي من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. صل على محمد وآل محمد واجعلني من أتباعه وشيعته واحشرني في زمرته ووفقني لأداء فرض الجمعات وما أوجبت علي فيها من الطاعات وقسمت لأهلها من العطاء في يوم الجزاء، إنك أنت العزيز الحكيم. وصل يا رب على محمد وآله الطاهرين.
Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're requested to recite Surah Fatiha for Akil Hassan Nurali, whose second death anniversary as 2 days ago. Khairun Bhai Nurali Ibrahim, Shirin Bhai Bandali, Hassan Ali Bandali, Naushad Visram, Hussein Ghulam Ali Jaksi, Syed Abbas Ali, Syed Naki Ali, Syed Sarwar Rizwi, the marhumin of all here present, and kulli mu'minin wal mu'minat. Also requested is remembrance of all those who are either unwell or suffering today with Ayat Karima. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma salli ala ali Muhammad. Just a gentle reminder to the ladies again, please, during the khutbah, please keep your voices down. Ahsant. Nothing else, just reach for your pockets when I finish. There are, okay. Some people have difficulty in understanding what I'm saying about this book. This book is a diary where you write the names of the sponsors of your marhumin for every Friday. So there are some slots available until the end of December. So please, I will leave this outside, or better still, if you wish to sponsor, just come to me and I'll arrange your name and telephone number in this diary, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أفضل ما صليت وباركت على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم صل على محمد وآله في كل وقت وكل أوان وعلى كل حال بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام، وأسأله أن يتوب علي توبة عبد ظليل خاضع فقير بائس مسكين مستقيم مستجير، لا يملك لنفسه نفعا ولا ضرا ولا موتا ولا حياة ولا نشورا. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من نفس لا تشبع، ومن قلب لا يخشع، ومن علم لا ينفع، ومن صلاة لا ترفع، ومن دعاء لا يسمع. اللهم إني أسألك اليسر بعد العسر، والفرج بعد الكرب، والرخاء بعد الشدة. اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمنك، لا إله إلا أنت، أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين سيد الوسيم إمام المتقين، السلام عليك يا سيدة نساء العالمين فاطمة الزهراء، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك، عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعل الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين، خصوصا سيدي مولاي أبو الفضل العباس وأختيك زينب وأم كلثوم وبنتك السكينة. السلام عليك يا زين العابدين ومحمد الباكر وجعفر الصادق، السلام عليك يا موسى الكاظم وعلي الرضا ومحمد الجواد وعلي الحادي والحسن العسكري. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا حجة الله في أرضه، السلام عليك يا عين الله في خلقه، السلام عليك يا نور الله الذي يهتدي به المهتدون ويفرج به عن المؤمنين، السلام عليك أيها المحذب الخائف، السلام عليك أيها الولي الناصح، السلام عليك يا سفينة النجاة، السلام عليك يا عين الحياة، السلام عليك صلى الله عليك وعلى آل بيتك الطيبين الطاهرين، السلام عليك عجل الله لك ما وعدك من النصر وظهور الأمر، السلام عليك يا مولاي، أنا مولاك عارف بأولاك وأخراك، أتقرب إلى الله تعالى بك وبآل بيتك، وأنتظر ظهورك وظهور الحق على يديك، وأسأل الله أن يصلي على محمد وآل محمد، وأن يجعلني من المنتظرين لك والتابعين والناصرين لك على أعدائك والمستشهدين بين يديك في جملة أوليائك. يا مولاي يا صاحب الزمان، صلوات الله عليك وعلى آل بيتك. هذا يوم الجمعة، وهو يومك المتوقع فيه ظهورك، والفرج فيه للمؤمنين على يديك، وقتل الكافرين بسيفك، وأنا يا مولاي فيه ضيفك وجارك، وأنت يا مولاي كريم من أولاد الكرام ومأمور بالضيافة والإجارة، فاضفني وأجرني. صلوات الله عليك وعلى أهل بيتك الطاهرين، نزيلك حيثما اتجهت ركابي وضيفك حيث كنتم من البلاد. السلام عليكم يا ساداتي وموالي جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم